This is the Insider's Guide to Real Estate, and I'm Victor Normand, your host. Our topic today is co-working. What exactly co-working facilities are, and how they affect housing, how we live, where we work, and what the future may hold. My guest this morning is Christine Breaux, who is the manager of Spark, a co-working facility here in Acton. Welcome, Christine, to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start off by giving our viewers a quick explanation of exactly what co-working is.
Well, co-working is a space that offers desks and offices and kitchen and Wi-Fi, and it's a place for workers to come and plug in their laptop and get working immediately. So it offers someone that works from home or is traveling through the area an opportunity to get out of their home office or get out of their car office and work and have the flexibility of working with others that they may not find in their own home.
Okay, we'll get into that in a lot more detail, and there's much more to it than the physical space, but let's start off by talking about your background, how you came to be the manager of Spark, and then tell us how Spark came to be where it is in Acton.
Well, my background is varied. I come from musical training background, and then I was a program developer for Elder Hostel in Boston, and I was doing a lot of traveling and speaking to groups, and landed here in the Acton area, raising my family, and found a job with Thomas Buckborough and Associates, and that turned into a wonderful relationship. We have been working together for about 15 years, and Spark became an organic discussion between the two of us when we were looking at the space next door and trying to figure out what to do with it. We both like the idea of co-working. It's a very metropolitan concept, and it is moving out into the suburbs. And it became something that just flowed very easily from our discussions, and Spark was very quickly formed.
Okay, so Thomas Buckborough is an architect
Yes.
who's been on my show before to talk about interior design and some of the work that he's done. And so I've been to your space, and I can see it really has a nice feel to it. Talk about some of the details. What exactly is there in this? It's a single building, a freestanding building.
It's a two-story building. It has a lounge, and it has day spaces that are just open desks where people can just come and work for the day. It also has a suite, but it has this wonderful kitchenette where people can come and have coffee and snacks, which are necessary when you're working during the day. It has places for people to go and sit if they wanted to not work within their office. They could sit in the lounge for a while and work. They can change their day up a little. There are offices upstairs for people to go if they want to be able to close the door. One of the greatest little items that we have in the space is something I love to show people. It's our phone booth, and we have a place where people can go and have a private conversation if they're out in a space and they feel that their conversation needs to be in a closed environment. They can go into the phone booth, and it's fun to show them.
Yeah. Well, I was in a building recently where they actually had a pay phone, and it just seems so odd. And your phone booth doesn't really have a phone in it. It's a place where you can go and use your cell phone.
Right.
So now this you had a physical building, a shell of a building to start with. How did you know what to put in it? Is what you have a typical co-working environment?
It is a typical co-working environment. Normally they have. What makes ours a little different is we do have private offices. Many co-works are just a big open space where individuals can just work, rent a space and work. We do have offices upstairs where individuals can go. The space also has conference rooms, so it's truly meant to be utilized for individuals that need flexible spaces.
Okay. Well, what we've seen now among home buyers, particularly buyers of newer homes, they're looking for a den or a workspace within the home. So that adds, if somebody is, whether they're working from home or have their own business, that requires additional space in the house, space that you have to heat and cool and pay taxes on. And it seems to be limited in terms of if you're going to be meeting with someone, then you need more space to do that. And then if you have co-workers, that you could run afoul of local zoning laws. So there are limitations to the home office, and it sounds like what you're offering is either a replacement for that or an extension of a home office?
Absolutely. When I talk to individuals that tour the space, that work out of their home office, I mention the feeling of isolation in your home office, but also that there's a risk of overworking in your home office because it's there. It's in your living environment. What's the beauty of a co-working space is that it's still your space, but it's removed from your home, so you can leave that. You can have 2 or 3 people with you. It's the best of both worlds.
Okay. So now we live in this virtual world in the cloud, so a lot of what we once needed to have in our office is now kept somewhere electronically, but there is still the need for keeping documents or keeping certain things in an office. How do you accommodate that in a co-work space?
Well, a big part of a co-work space is the Wi-Fi access and security. So we have a very elaborate system where we can provide an individual their own separate IP address, their own security for their computers, if they wanted to leave them there. So it's very important because cloud-based, the world is cloud-based.
Sure. What about the old-fashioned filing cabinet? Would I find that in a co-work space?
Oh, great question. We actually, for individuals that would just want a file cabinet, we have a rolling file cabinet that we have plenty of them, and they can move. They can go under a desk, and they lock.
Okay, so let's talk about cost. How is it broken down? Is it by the hour? Is it by the desk? How do you charge for co-work space?
Well, a co-working space, there's lots of different formats for charging for co-working spaces. The way we have set up ours is that there's an initial membership fee, and with that, an individual gets a key fob that they can open up the building. So for $75, they have a key fob that opens up the building, and they have access to the building for 24/7, which is what somebody would expect out of a home office. And from there, individuals can book what they need on an a la carte basis. So they can book a desk if they would like for the day for $30. They could rent an office for $70 for the day. They could rent a conference room conference rooms are more hourly used. But they have a whole option that they can, a menu, so to speak.
All right, so is there any level of usage that is not appropriate for a co-work space? I mean, obviously, you would rent someone an office to be used exclusively for themselves, or would you do that?
I would absolutely do that.
You do that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Does it lose its character as co-working if you have people who are using it as a small office building?
Well, many co-works have that ingrained as part of their system, which is they have several workers that are there full-time, because the beauty of co-working is that there's always somebody there to bounce ideas off of. So if you have people that are regular users of the space, they can be someone that can be there to answer questions, that can challenge you, that can inspire you.
Mm-hmm. So Spark has been around for less than a year.
Less than a year.
Less than a year. So who's using your space? What kind of businesses are using your space now?
We have a whole gamut. We have large businesses that are renting this space for their workers that live in this area. So we have a large company out of California, and they have one of their employees lives in Acton, and they're renting a desk from us. We have entrepreneurs that are starting their own business and developing apps, and they're using our space. I also have found that personal coaches, business coaches, and we even have the possibility of a speech pathologist working out of the space. So there's lots of different people that have been attracted.
Okay. Now, do you have a sense that that the space is moving in a certain direction, that you might have all entrepreneurs or all workers in larger businesses? Has it developed a personality yet, I guess, at this point?
I think that the personality that's coming out so far, I think that's going to change over the years.
Sure.
I really do. The personality that I'm seeing in the individuals that are coming through is entrepreneurs that are starting their own business. The groups that are renting the conference rooms tend to be established businesses that have the need for a large conference room. So they're coming in and renting the conference rooms. But the individuals that are really using the space for work are the startup businesses and people who are working from home, freelance writers. And they tend to be young. There are statistics out of Harvard Business Review that says that 70% of co-working is used by individuals who are under the age of 40. So, and I am seeing that. And these are the individuals that come in and that are ready to work, sit down, and they understand what co-working really is.
Okay. All right, let's go back in time now. Co-working wasn't invented to be on Great Road in Acton. It's been around. What's the history of the concept of co-working?
Co-working began in Europe, and so it began in Germany and it began in Belgium. The first co-working was opened up around 20 years ago in San Francisco, and it has since spread in the metropolitan areas as a method for working. As businesses lose space, as more and more people are moving into traveling out into the suburbs and they're working out of their homes, it's become a much more established method of working in the area over the years, and it's just growing.
Okay, so the West Coast, it started and it's moved this way. How in this area are there options for people in terms of co-working venues that they can choose?
Well, there's several in Boston, and there's one here in Concord, and there's one in Lowell, and they tend to be metropolitan. They are growing and they're popping up all over the place.
Okay, so there's this expression, nomadic internet entrepreneurs that tend to occupy coffee houses and run their businesses. Is this an alternative, or is this how does this fit in with this kind of nomadic internet entrepreneur?
I had a conversation with somebody the other day. I call them, I call it the coffice, where they're buying coffee and they're sitting and working. And co-working offers someone that uses the nearby cafes it offers them more security. It offers them less disruption from the social groups that are around them. And a cafe is only going to last as long as you're sitting there having a cup of coffee. And where a co-working environment, you can have your cup of coffee and sit there as long as you need to.
Sure, and you can't be sure if you went to a coffee house if you're going to get a table. And
I think logistically, it's definitely something you have to navigate as a business owner.
It sounds like you might have the same sort of a problem in terms of time management. If you're in a coffee house working, and you've got an hour's worth of work, but you might sit there for an hour and a half, whereas it sounds like co-work, you program a little more so than a coffee house. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that is accurate. You go ahead and you plan your day accordingly. I know I'm going to be working in a co-working space for half a day, so I know for 4 hours of my day or 8 hours of my day, I'm going to be sitting at a desk working.
So it's a form of time management, if you will, to just budget your time that you wouldn't be doing at home or in a cafe.
True.
So now let's try to separate out what is kind of co-working out of necessity and co-working out of choice. And I've noodled around a little bit on co-working in other parts of the world, and come across co-working is very popular in a place like Hong Kong, where office space is extremely expensive and limited, and so then co-working in a co-working environment becomes almost a necessity and not by choice. But there are opportunities, and here in Acton may be an example of where it really is a choice to be in a co-work environment. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I think one of the challenges that we face as a new co-working space is that we need to offer our community just that. We need to offer them opportunities for networking. We have to go beyond the standard workspace. We have to offer seminars, and we have to offer places that are places for workers to meet and congregate and ask questions and to showcase their own work. It's part of the environment that we're trying to create for the individuals in the area.
Okay. So the internet has changed how we work in many ways, and this sounds like an example of that. There's lots of traditional office space available. Do you see co-working as, how does co-working change with the economy? Good economy, bad economy? And you're just starting out, but what do you anticipate? Is a good economy good for co-working?
I think that it's both is going to be good for co-working. I really do, because it's a certain worker that's going to want to leave their home office and go find a place to work. That sense of isolation drives individuals into a co-working space. That sense of working in your car and tired of working in your car drives you to a co-working space, regardless of the economy and where we sit in the economy. I think if we are seeing numbers grow with individuals working out of their home and starting their own home businesses, we're going to see co-working grow in this area.
Okay. So there was a survey done, and they asked people if you had an opportunity to work at home, would you take it? And a third of the people said no. They wouldn't want to work at home. Interpret that from your business perspective, from a co-work perspective.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with what we talked about earlier, which is that they have to make the space within their home. And a lot of people look at their homes and they don't want to create that space. If they have young children, that's something to also take into consideration if you have a home office. So I can see that becoming a factor in someone when they're looking at space and how they plan on working and whether or not they want to work in a general office, a regular office, or in their own home office.
So there are distractions working at home. There's the physical
Absolutely.
space that you need. There are distractions.
Yeah.
So if I were an employer and I were trying to encourage a certain number of my employees to work at home, because I don't want to have to rent that much, any office space that I don't need to rent, so might I see a co-working facility as a way to encourage kind of work at home, but yet allay some of the concerns that they may have in a work-at-home environment.
Right, it absolutely do. Because if you have co-working that are opening up in the suburban areas, you're going to have more opportunities for large businesses to send their employees to a co-working space, and they don't feel the need. They don't feel there's no pressure there to create a home office. There's no pressure. They're going to a space to work. They know that the productivity will be just as high.
Okay, let's dig a little deeper into this alienation, if you will. I think that's another component, that even if you have space in your home to work, even if the children were all grown and out of the house, and you had a beautiful view out your window, and you had good discipline and time management, you still might not want to work by yourself at home. So are you seeing examples of that in your business where people just need other people?
Yes, I do. I see the need to sometimes just change your space. And if you're working in your home office, you're surrounded by the pressures of being at home and the requirements of being at home, whether it's doing your laundry, whether it's I forgot to go shopping, I need to go do that now. I need to now open my computer and there's, oh, I have problems on my computer. Who do I go to ask? I want to market my business now. Where can I discuss marketing? So yeah, co-working can offer that opportunity, which is there are people there that you can talk to. There are businesses that come through the space fluidly, like water, and there are business cards. There are people that they could use it. It's a resource.
So even businesses that are not like yours at all, there's still some benefit, this interaction that might occur that people seem to need in a very practical sense. As you mentioned, my computer just froze, and is there anyone around who can help me figure that out? But then there's also this socialization aspect that is in us all as social beings that is addressed even when you're not necessarily interacting with somebody, you're in the same space. Are you observing that as a manager of the facility? Do you look out and just watch body language and see how people are interacting with one another?
Yes, I think that the kitchen is the perfect place because I'm sort of outside the kitchen area and I hear interaction in the kitchen, and I think that's the perfect place for folks to pass each other by, ask what they're working on, discuss ask a question, and to have that kind of an interactive environment.
The food is definitely a factor. I was listening to a talk show recently where they surveyed employees, what do you like most about your company, and the availability of food and snacks and really came to the top of the list. That is something that is attractive to folks, and so I can see where a kitchen is a kind of a gathering place for an opportunity for people to make introductions to one another and so on. Let's go back. You mentioned this kind of age, the demographic that's more inclined to use a co-working space. Let's talk about who they are. It sounds like you're really talking about these millennials, which a lot of us in business who are not millennials are trying to understand because we see them. It's a huge demographic cohort that is going to be buying what we have to sell, and we need to understand them. And this age under 40 seems to be representative of that millennial group. How would you characterize these millennials as workers, as how they interact with one another?
I find the folks that work in my environment to be very flexible. They want to change up their day. They like to take walks during the day. They like to just have that flexibility in their life, and it's fluid. It's very social. It's very online, and it's very fast.
So it's not only something that they would like. It seems like it's coded in them. Younger people just seem to have greater affinity to social media and the internet and open to new ideas, and I could see where something like co-working would feed right into that. Do you see? You mentioned the types, the corporate types, and also the freelancers. What about on the creative side? Do you see more creative people having an interest in co-working?
Yeah, we have an interesting member that's working on a brand new app that's developing, that's using art as a means of teaching kids, and it's fascinating to watch that process. And he's at the stage where he wants to invite some kids in to draw and to work in this space, and so having that discussion with him is fascinating. We have lots of individuals that come in with some sort of an artistic background. I think there's a curiosity factor that is addressed there.
Yeah, and also it seems like a comfort level that this, not only are these millennials comfortable in a co-work environment, but so are the people they work with. Whether they're teaching them math or trying to sell a product to them, stepping into a co-work environment isn't really all that strange.
Yes.
And so whenever I think of co-work, I just think of co-housing. And it also, co-housing, and there is a facility in Acton that is a co-housing facility. And I see many similarities in terms of having this private space or having this part of your life that is very private, but then programming into it community. It's easy to drift away from community, and I think you will agree co-housing is a community, and memberships are it seems to be a way in which you bind people together in this community concept.
Yeah, I think it's one of those discussions that we had at the beginning while Spark was being formed, was the beauty of a community and what it can offer the wealth of freelancers and home workers here in this area and entrepreneurs in this area, because there is that sense of support and the sense of networking, but also a social sense for business workers to come and to enjoy a wine tasting event, enjoy a seminar that they may not experience anywhere else, and have it in a nice environment, in a relaxed environment, and to make individuals feel like they are at home away from their home. So,
well, that's great. Well, good luck with your business and
Thank
your
you.
community,
Thank
and
you.
thanks very much for being on our show.
Thank you for having me.
So that's our program for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.